Tallboys and Trackmasters is brought to you by Expert Exhaust. Expect more for your money. And by Cycle Mart, your motorcycle parts store.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to episode 28 of Tallboys
and Trackmasters. Well, it's short boys. And the Trackmasters are pretty bald.
You'll have that in a small town. I still had some of these Younglings left, but I do have a lot of those short boys left that you gave me there. So,
yep.
Well, thanks for tuning in again, everybody. We appreciate you looking at us there tonight and going over another awesome topic, which we're going to talk about this evening: group dynamics. And usually I start out the show by asking you how your weekend was, but I know exactly how your weekend was because we got to do a little bit of Brandywine Boogalooing together this weekend.
Yep, always a good time.
Yep. I think this time seemed like there was 2 days of drinking with a little bit of riding thrown in the side there too.
Yeah. I did let the riding get in the way of my drinking there for a little bit.
Oh, it was a good weekend, and not a whole lot of big issues. Pretty successful
for you.
Yeah, for some of us, right?
If you know anybody that wants a secondhand, gently used KTM rear wheel bearing, let me know. Hook you right up.
Well, you couldn't have picked a better place to break down than what you did, because that was a straight Bob Ross painting you broke down.
Yeah, that was. I had the cicadas and the crickets singing in the background. I had pines on one side and a nice field on the other side with deer grazing in it, waiting for old Dan to come back with his truck and save the day.
Dan, the rescue man.
Oh, yeah. Always count on Dan.
That's right. Well, speaking of Dan and kind of the whole weekend, I know this was interesting to kind of take a step back and think about, which really led into what I think is going to be a good episode. And we lost him there for a minute. There you go.
Sorry about that.
That's good. You're good, man. But yeah, like we were saying, just kind of taking a step back, thinking about the weekend and thinking about just the diversity that we had in the group of guys that came and girls that come and rode with us. I think it makes a good topic for discussion as how many different walks of life and just the diversity that you have in a big rider group when you got a decent sized ride like that. And there's always a little bit of common thread between everybody, but also a lot of differences. And I think that would make a good topic to talk about this evening.
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely one of the most diverse hobbies I've ever been a part of in terms of, you never have any idea who you're riding with when you first meet them.
Yep. Everybody comes from different walks of life. Everybody's got different things going on in their life, but it does seem like whenever you can put on some gear, throw your leg over a bike and kind of do a little bit of a ride together, that it brings everybody together from, like we said, all over the world and all over the different parts of your life. So, got a few points, and I'm going to bring on one of our production assistants, our interns that we have for the show. So if you want to give me my clipboard lady, thank you very much. Come here. You can come in. Say hi.
Hi.
Thank you.
These are unpaid interns, right?
Yeah, unpaid child labor interns that we have.
Sweet.
But she wanted to be on the show tonight, so I told her, why not? So just, this could be generalized, I think, for every type of rider group that you have, but I'll just kind of go over our group just as a background of who does what and what different types of occupations and walks of life you have in our little rider group. So, for example, we had 2 electricians, 2 machinists, one of them retired. We have a engineer for a medical prosthetics company. We have a union millwright. We've got an IT guy, a medical delivery driver, a custodian, 2 retired people, and an optometrist. I think that's the beginnings of a joke, isn't it? It sounds like you've had all those people walk into a bar.
Yeah, and the 10th one ducks. Is that how that one goes?
Yeah, something like that. Man, there's that's a that's a wide spectrum of career choices and just personalities that you're going to have on one group together. And it's just fascinating to me to sit there and think that you might be common together on a motorcycle, but outside of that, you might be completely different in your life. And I just think it makes for a super interesting topic, And even on that side, it was kind of funny when we left out of Franklin to go get gas and stuff down there. We see another guy that we kind of know that we interviewed recently, Chris Burke, performing his job as a UPS delivery driver. I looked down the street and there's a UPS guy there, and he's waving at us and messaged me and said hi. I said, man, you never know what people got going on in their life outside of motorcycles. It's really interesting.
Yep. This hobby's, I've crossed paths with people that otherwise I never would have met or, had any dealings with, period. And, it's been really interesting to gain more perspectives from people with vastly different backgrounds.
Yep. And I think when you have that type of diversity, it really brings a lot to each one of your rides. You have different perspectives on things. You have different experiences for things. And I think for probably 99% of the time, when all of those come together and mesh well, that's what makes a great dual sport ride, in my opinion. Sure. You have all those different backgrounds, all those different experiences, and it enhances the ride. And, a lot of times you might come into situations where something happens and somebody's been trained or has that experience to be able to help in that situation. I mean, take, for example, when we were back doing the Brandywine or the Tour de Coalfields, and Mark Wolf got the gas in his eyes,
Yep.
We had an optometrist right there on site. Is
there an optometrist in the house?
Yeah. Like what are the chances of that? And it's just, like I said, it's just fascinating to me.
Yep. I agree 100%.
And with that being said, I think, a lot of times those type of different roles in your personal life kind of bleed over into what we consider certain monikers in the group.
Sure.
Everybody kind of falls into different categories as far as who they are on a dual sport ride. And I've got a whole list of them here because I've experienced every single one of these in different riding groups that I've been in. And I think we'll just kind of go down the list a little bit and talk about each one of these and maybe give them, 5-10 minutes a piece to go over it. I mean, obviously, I think in the group, you got to start with whoever your lead rider is, the trail boss.
Yeah.
And, it seems to me like I fall into that a good bit with our rides that we do. And
I just thought that we let the guy that was the worst navigator lead,
it's
so he
usually
didn't
me.
get lost behind us.
Yeah. All the little ducks and the sheep follow the lost leader.
Normally the guy that's planned the ride and put everything together is the one that ends up leading it. And especially this year, you've been, putting on a lot of the fun stuff that we went and did.
It's very nerve-wracking. It's very challenging. And, a lot of times that can make it not fun. It really can, especially when you start running into issues such as, making a wrong turn or, having breakdowns on the trail, or maybe trying to keep a deadline of, I want to try to get to this point by this certain time, or we're not going to be able to do the entire loop. And then you have to start deducing, where can we cut out sections? It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of mental strain, I think, for whoever the trail leader is. Like you said, you have to sit there, months and weeks sometimes ahead of time when you're doing a ride of planning the route, planning the stops. I mean, it's a lot of work. It really is.
We look at what we got into with Coalfields with everyone's GPS just decided to mess up in approximately the same location. It took us, a good while to figure out where we needed to be versus where we were at and get turned around and back on the right track.
Yep. I think, to be a trail leader, you have to be a little bit of a glutton for punishment. You are sacrificing for the benefit of the entire group, and that's not to say that I don't have a good time, or the trail leader that's doing the ride's not going to have a good time leading everything as well. But I think the fun factor's dialed down a little bit for that guy, because they have so much going on in the peripherals to make sure that the ride's a success, that a lot of times you don't have a chance to stop and enjoy what's around you or the people that are around you a lot of times too. And the one advantage that I will say about being the trail leader is you really don't have to worry about a whole lot of dust when you're the trail leader.
Yeah, the dust was atrocious this past weekend. My air filter looks like a powdered donut.
I know my buddy Justin that came down with us. He said last night at work that he had a filter skin on his bike, and when he pulled that filter skin off, he said it looked like a dead possum was laying on top of his filter, as charcoaly and horrible as it looked there, which I thought was funny.
I need to get some of those filter skins.
They do help. They do help, especially if you have a bike where the filter, like on that 690, where it's up on top right underneath the seat. Super.
When we were changing his flat, I noticed just how exposed the air filter is on that thing. Man, there's not much protection there.
Yep. Yeah. So I mean, obviously, as a trail leader, you're thinking about the route, you're thinking about lodging, you're thinking about food, gas stops, you're thinking about, if you have breakdowns, if you run into, say, like closed gates or the road's not passable, which we ran into over the weekend for sure.
Which we always turn around and do the right thing.
Yeah, every time. But there's a lot that goes into it, and like I said, you have to have a willingness to be that guy, to be the vocal leader, to kind of put it all on your shoulders to make sure that it's a success. And it's not for everybody. It really isn't for everybody. Kind of moving on from that, I think we'll kind of go to the other end of the spectrum, which is the tail gunner. You got to have a guy that's friendly, is patient, is willing to put up with the dust and the misery at the end of the ride. That maybe one thing going back to being the trail leader is, if you come into a section that's, say, super muddy and slick and very, not very good, that guy's going to have the best terrain right off the bat.
Yep.
And whoever your tail gunner is, they're getting the absolute worst of whatever the terrain is you're going to have, because it's already been blowed out. So
same with water crossings. Yep. The more bikes go through, the murkier it gets.
Yeah. It definitely takes a special breed of guy to want to do that. And I know that, I don't know if he just kind of gets shuffled into the fold of doing it all the time, or if he just does it because he likes it, because it seems like Fred's always our tail gunner all the time.
Yeah, I agree.
And, you couldn't ask for a nicer person, more down-to-earth dude. He just loves the ride, loves to help people, loves just doing it. And it like I said, you have to have a special type of personality to be able to put up with that, and a lot of times your guys that might be a little bit slower tend to kind of start migrating towards the back. So that guy's also got to kind of be a teacher as well to share some insight, help those people out, and also be able to relay information to the front of the group when there's an issue or a breakdown or anything happens of that sort. So definitely a special type of person to be a tail gunner as well. Let's see. I've got several of these here. Let's talk about one of my favorite types of people, which is one I like to call a spark plug. This guy fits in with any group. He benefits the group by fitting in, is always down to help the ride in any way he possibly can without maybe overstepping his boundaries and taking control of the situation or the ride. But, it's like a puzzle piece. He just fits in everywhere, makes sure that everything runs smooth. Usually is pretty mechanically knowledgeable to help in situations with navigation. It's almost like he's a mini trail lead in a way. Like he's got the skills and the traits that can incorporate over into being a trail lead guy, but also just likes to be part of the group and likes to fit in. And I know we have several of those in our group as well.
Yep, I agree. Your point about him being pretty much a junior trail lead has been true in my experience too.
Yeah, you want people like that are like-minded. They don't bring a whole lot of baggage with them whenever they're coming on the ride. And I could think of several guys off the bat just in our group that definitely fit that category, that just they're plug and play. Maybe they don't show up every single ride, but when they do show up, it's like they never left.
Yep.
Their skill level is high enough to keep up with the group.
Just happy to be there.
Just happy to be there. Exactly. Just happy to be there. Just, you see that a lot of times, like the guy in the group project that maybe didn't do the most work, but he was the funny guy in the group that kind of kept things moving and kept things light and kept it nice. So he gets the A on the project as well. He definitely enhanced it, I know one that you had that I liked, kind of made a little bit of a nomenclature for. Let's call this guy Danger Dave. So, Danger Dave is the guy that he's in a little bit over his head, wants to try to impress the group and not let everybody down. But in doing so, he's a little bit past his limit physically, mentally. And it seems like he's the guy that's always getting hurt on every single ride.
Yeah, it's difficult. I suffer from it a good bit too, especially, I started riding rougher terrain with more competent riders. Is the struggle to keep up, the struggle to prove yourself constantly, and you start getting in over your head, and you get too far too quick in a lot of cases. And it's hard to balance between that and trying to ride conservatively because you're trying to do this for as long as possible. But it's like going jeeping with a guy that the first mud hole you see, he's got to bore it out and get stuck, and then it's a multi-hour process to get him out of there. And if he's going to do it every time, you're kind of wary of it. You know what I mean? So if you got a guy that there's no hill too steep, but he doesn't quite have the ability to make it up every time, and his bike comes back down on him, and you just get wary of it. I guess what I'm getting at.
Yeah, Danger Dave probably doesn't get invited to a whole lot of rides back. He's more like the first time guy, like the fringe. Hey, I've seen this guy post on social media, or I've heard, hey, that guy wants to come ride with us, and comes out a couple of times, and you're like, oh man, this has just kind of been a disaster from the start.
Or the dudes that show up with next to zero gear.
Yeah,
the bare minimum, like logger boots and a street bike helmet, and it just makes you worry a little bit.
Yeah, shorts and Chuck Taylors and
raises questions.
Yeah. Yeah, and those are the type of guys that you're definitely going to have to keep an eye on, and it's like a lot of group efforts in any type of discipline, I think, where you are only as strong as your weakest link.
Yep.
Whoever the rider is that's struggling or God forbid has a serious issue, you're that person, you're at their mercy basically.
Yep. Same goes for maintenance.
Yeah.
And if you got a guy that every time you go out, something goes catastrophically wrong with his bike, I'd say this is someone who had to get towed back to camp just this past weekend. But if it's, every time you go out riding, it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Trail fixes are, okay once in a while, but when you're doing it every time you go out, it gets old.
Yep. That's the next guy on my list is Maintenance Mike. Maintenance Mike is the guy that knows that there's several issues wrong with the bike, but he doesn't want to disappoint the group by saying, hey, I don't have the time or the funds to repair that right at this moment, but it'll be all right. I'll go anyway. And he's the guy that he's always breaking down and you're always working on his crap out on the side of the trail.
Yep. It's all right until it's not. And sometimes when it's not all right, it's not all right in the absolute middle of nowhere and you don't have the means to get everything lined back out.
Yeah. Why does it always seem too that the guy that's like that is the one riding the weird exotic bike that you can't get parts for ever, and there's roundabout horrible ways to take off parts that are broken, and just it always seems like it's that guy. He's Mr. Exotic and Mr. Different.
It's like I see all the time on forums of, man, I found a great deal on a Husqvarna TE610 or something like that. It's like, are they selling multiple of them so you can rob parts and keep one going? Or
that guy. I've been on several rides, and we all experience breakdowns at different points. I mean, obviously you had one, but it's not like you're breaking down all the single time, but you can tell the guys that just absolutely refuse to do any type of maintenance on their bikes before they come, because they expect the guys in the group to be the ones to maintain their bikes for them.
So I mean, I don't mind doing trail fixes. Actually, I kind of enjoy the challenge, but when it's expected, when it's a regular occurrence, it gets old after a while. On a somewhat related note, Arthur Punsack, when you watch this in the future, order your dual compound SKF fork seals. Get that lined out. Do not wait.
Yep. Yeah. Don't cheap out on all balls or moose. Go SKF on the KTMs.
No, because if you run those things out of fluid, you'll start, wearing your bushings and everything else down, and then you're really going to have some repair bills.
I should have put a little disclaimer at the beginning of this that these aren't directed directly at people that ride with us. It's just a generalization that we see out on different riding groups. I've seen people that fit these category in pretty much every group ride that I've done, whether it be an FDSR ride or any other type of groups that are out there riding together.
I agree.
To maybe, Maintenance Mike's best friend is probably Tim the Tool Man. Tim's the guy that has every single possible tool you can think of, stuff that's really not necessary and way overpacked. He's the guy with pannier boxes and soft bags and fender bags and tail bags, just completely crammed full of stuff that you really don't need on the trail. But when the time comes, he's everybody's favorite dude, because he's usually got what you need to get yourself back on the trail and get it fixed in a hurry. And I know that seems like a lot of us are part of that guy. I don't think anybody in our group is 100% that guy, but we all try to keep a little bit of everything on our bags and whatnot. But I've seen the guys out there on the big, like BMW FG800s and stuff, just full of the brim with, ball hones and just like stuff you would never need on the side of the trail. And, but sometimes that guy's a good dude to have on your group.
And sometimes I don't know. For dual sports, you can absolutely take it too far. You end up with a 10-pound toolkit beating around all the time. A lot of people can't rationalize, yes, I'm going to get prepared, but there's some things that you can't prepare for. If your bottom end goes, you're not going to have a spare bottom end and the means to put it together. You have to kind of figure out what's the most common things that I'm going to run into on the trail? And that's probably going to be things like, chain adjustments, a leaking fork seal, basic stuff like that, as opposed to, like you said, like ball hones or I mean, it's all a matter of trying to balance how deep in the weeds you want to get. And I say this as I've seen pictures and videos of guys doing top ends on 2-strokes and on the trail because they knew that it was about to go out. So, but that's a little bit, less involved than opening up a 4-stroke motor.
So sometimes maintenance Mike can also be toolman Tim at the same time.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not a good sign if you know that you have a top end about to explode, but you're going to take everything with you to do it on the side of the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be a little skeptical of riding with that guy.
Yeah, you and me both.
Going a little bit further down the list here, I know when I say this, you're going to know exactly who I'm talking about because this dude is 100% in our group is the human GPS, the guy that remembers every road, every detail, can explain to you exactly where this road goes, that road goes, sights and features. And it's really always like never stored or never in type of any kind of technology to keep a record of it. It's just
like tribal knowledge.
It's all up here in the head.
Yep.
And I really enjoy riding with those folks because, man, that knowledge is immeasurable. And I mean, I'll just go ahead and out and say it's Tom King in our group.
Yeah.
The guy is 100% a human GPS. And it's been very impressive to follow him around, see where his roads were that he knew. And that guy's valuable to maybe get out of situations if you have an issue in a hurry as well.
Yep. I agree. Sometimes the tube that he has isn't even dry rotted. Sometimes you get lucky.
Yeah, that guy, it kind of seems to me that definitely seems to be in the slightly older crowd of guys. And it just comes with experience and knowledge. But the older guys that are with you in the group, those are the dudes that seem to have that wire in their brain and the switch that they can flip to know exactly where they are at all times. And
especially the ex-Blackwater guys seem to be a fantastic resource for trail repairs, navigation, you name it.
Yeah. And that's the other cool thing I think about this list is, most people don't just follow under one of these categories. I think you can be well-rounded and be a little bit of every single one of these, and the more well-rounded you are in some of the more positive labels, I guess you could say, the better off you're going to be, and the more people are going to want to ride with you for sure.
Your roles switch too, depending on what size group you're with. If you are with one or two other people, you're going to be wearing a lot of hats. Whereas you start getting into groups of 10 and 15, maybe there's someone that now has better trail repair experience than you do. There's someone who has better navigation capability than you do. So you end up naturally just kind of falling into different roles depending on what groups you're with.
Yep. Yeah, that's 100% true. And, it's encouraging to me when you see guys that maybe fit some of the not good labels eventually get out of that and become a positive influence or a better part of the group. And I think that takes a lot of patience because if you got guys that are constantly the maintenance queens or some of these other categories that we're going to get into, you don't really intend to usually invite those people back to your rides. And, sometimes it's, that guy refuses to change and I don't want to ride with that person anymore. But, whenever that person can kind of see the group and learn and get better at the hobby, that really, really does it for me as well. It's something that's very nice to see. So let's go through one of the negative ones, and I've seen this guy several times in every single group that we've been in, and that's Eeyore. That's the dude that's just down all the time. Any little inconvenience, it's game over.
Dude, you don't have
everything's frustrating. Huh?
I said you don't have to call me out directly like that.
This you got to think at the end of the day, this is a hobby. It's something that we're trying to do for fun. It's recreation. It's supposed to blow off steam. And when you get the guy that's, he's just a negative person, the glass is always half empty, and every little thing that goes wrong, the dude's, you can kind of hear him chirping in the background, complaining, like, oh, this ride's no fun, or this ride's too hard, this ride's too easy, and this person that I rode with did this way, and I like that better. Like I don't have time for people like that in a group, and unfortunately, I have seen those guys out on the trail with us several times.
Or just want to hop on and twist the throttle. I mean,
yeah,
that's enough to make me happy in most cases. But I've been on the other side of that coin too, as the guy that just takes it way too seriously, constantly. Been there, done that. I just frustrate myself, especially trying to keep up with riders that have 10 plus years more experience than I do, and coming kind of back around full circle, trying to not take it quite as seriously all the time, and just accepting what my limit is and riding to it. It's really improved stuff for me, because like you said, it's a hobby. It's supposed to blow off steam. It's supposed to be fun. Not everybody wants a hobby that feels in some way competitive.
Yeah. And that's a fine line to walk too, because a lot of people in the group especially are former racers, and they like to scratch that itch when they get out there off road of turning it on and blowing off the steam that they used to be able to blow off on the racetrack. And I mean, sometimes whenever you're doing that can turn you into several other people that we've mentioned previously in our group here.
Oh yeah, the Danger
Dave. What's that?
I said the Danger Dan. I mean Danger Dave.
Yeah, you turn into that guy pretty quickly. But getting back to it, man, just I don't know how people can go through life just being that negative and down all the time. I mean, nothing really lifts my spirits more than being able to get out with a group of guys and just have a relaxing weekend and just cover some miles, cover some trail, and see some just absolutely fantastic stuff that's out there. Like when we went up that Pike Knob on Friday and come down over the other side of that, man, into that little clearing, there was like that wide spot on that mountain. You could literally see Spruce Knob and 2 or 3 other mountains just right there in front of you, man. It was just like, wow, we are so lucky to be able to do what we do.
Yep. I think that a lot, especially you hit some picturesque areas, and it does just make it feel all the more special to be able to get out and, enjoy this hobby. So, like I said, coming full circle and not taking everything quite as seriously and just trying to have fun with it. Because if something's frustrating and you're not having fun, then you're not going to want to do it very often.
No.
So I think the guys that do focus too much on the downsides, you're kind of cheating yourself out of experiences. Dual sport riding is kind of like pizza. Even if it sucks, it's still somewhat good.
Yeah. Well, I know we've said that several times. I mean, to me, a bad overall weekend riding is still better than working to me. It's experiences. It's definitely stories, because we've had some pretty epic rides that have had some issues here and there. And I mean, that's what you talk about when you get together with a group of dudes. It's like, hey, remember when this happened and this and this and this, and just list it on. Like I can think back to what was it, 2021 Brandywine's ride, like just problem after problem after problem after problem.
Yep.
Like you getting hurt, bikes breaking down at the camp, just stuff that like you still at the time you think about, like, this is frustrating. Like everybody's Eeyore on that ride. It's just, this is bad. I don't ever want to do this again. And then kind of when you look back on it, you're like, all right, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was. And it's one hell of a story whenever the time comes to talk about it.
Yeah. When you get a bunch of guys sitting around, most of the time they're not sitting recalling, the absolute perfect dual sport ride they went on where everything worked great and everything was just exactly the way they wanted it to be. It's mostly, hey, remember that time we got 3 pinch flats on the same tube and just kept sticking patches on it? Or, hey, remember the time I waterlogged my bike on the Kingsville tunnel and we had to pull the spark plug right on the side of the trail? Or, hey, remember when I blew the wheel bearings out on my bike at the scene of the Bob Ross painting?
I'm seeing a common theme there, buddy, towards the couple last things you were talking about there.
Oh, it's been an eventful year for me.
I think it's been an eventful year for all of us. kind of look back and think about all the stuff that we've got to do this year. And it's like every year, it's like a stepping stone, just keeps getting a little better, a little better, a little better, a little better. And I'm super looking forward to what the rest of this year has to offer and what next year has to offer as well. I know there's some rumblings and some talk behind the scenes about doing some pretty epic stuff next year. So super excited about all that. But yeah, kind of getting back to it, you're always going to have the Eeyore guy, and it seems like he's the guy that knows everything about everything, and is the first to just cast judgment, and complain about everything. And then he's also the guy chirping, it seems like, on social media and everything else about, like, this should have been this way, that way, what have you. You're always going to have those type of guys. And I've definitely rode with those dudes before. A couple more that I have here. Let's talk about who, what I like to affectionately call is the mother hen. They're the person that seems to gravitate to being the mom of the group, making sure that everybody's squared away. Everybody has what they need. If something does come up that they need something, they usually have it in abundance to give. And it's the person that's the greatest of heart, I think, in the group. They're selfless, and they love that feeling of everybody's kind of coming to them for, guidance, comfort, supplies, issues, whatever it is. And they also always seem to be the ones that have the best food for the group, whether it be snacks or meals to go or whatever.
Snacks can turn a ride around. Even something as simple as a pack of gummies, get that glucose up, make a huge difference.
I'd like to point out that the mother hen of our ride was probably Evelyn. Her and Pat coming down, she's the one that just brightens everybody's day, puts a smile on your face, runs around with their dog Lou, who's a hoot, that little puppy, and brought down enough donuts and muffins from Dunkin' and stuff to feed an absolute army. So that was definitely nice to have at the start of the ride. And yeah, you have those kind-hearted souls that you will meet out on the trail that just want to be the best and the benefit for everybody in the entire group.
Yeah, you got, I guess, on the opposite side of the coin from mother hens, like the Scrooge, like the guy that, has the know-how or has, the capabilities to help out with what needs done, and then just chooses not to for some reason.
Yeah.
I've seen that on a few instances, and that's frustrating too.
Yep. And got just a couple more here, which we'll do this next one, and then I'll got the ticker with the industry news. I'll flash that across, and then we'll go through some of the comments before we get to the last one, because the last one's probably going to take a little bit of time. But this next one is what I like to call the silent assassin. This is the person that's pretty unassuming. They don't really say a whole lot. They're there. You kind of forget about them in a way, that they just kind of blend in with the crowd. But they're generally good at all of these labels and these skills. Like, they're a heck of a rider. They're there when you need them for help. But they're kind of quiet and reserved and don't really say a whole lot. Definitely got a couple of those guys in our group.
Yep.
One of the other ones I'd like to discuss too is the crafty veteran.
Always.
We have a couple of these crafty vets who kind of the same token as the silent assassin. They're kind of unassuming just because they don't look like they would all be that intense and fire breathing as a rider. But I'm looking at you, Dan Farnsworth. I consider myself one pretty good motorcycle rider, and on Forest Road 151 down there, kept hearing this noise to my left, and I thought it was my chain like trying to come off. So I look over and happen to see a KTM 500 front fender, and I was holding old Dan up, and Dan had the fire built in that bike and blew me away like I was sitting still. And that was super impressive to see a guy his age just absolutely slaying the trails down there.
Yeah. The only thing that fears Dan more than gravel is the tire he's roasting off on it. Because he had virtually zero knob left on that thing by the end of Saturday. It was impressive how quick that thing wore off.
No. Yeah, Dan's a heck of a nice dude. Falls into multiple categories in this little chart of ours, but you got to watch out for those crafty old veterans, man. They've been around the block. They're usually pretty good dudes, pretty good riders, and have lots of experience to share with the younger crowd. And that's something else I know that we kind of talked about in the previous little bit of episode is you have those older guys that have all the experience because they've done these rides. They've been around the block, been through, countless experiences in their life, not just dual sport riding, but I always try to incorporate the young guys as well, the young guns. So I want to call it, they're the newbies of the ride. They're the guys that just bought the bike. They just bought the stuff. They want to get out there. They're eager to learn. And man, I think in our hobby and our sport, a lot of times those guys, because they're so new and they're not really at the skill level as a lot of other guys in the group, they kind of get shunned out. And it's discouraging to see because, man, I don't like to use this term, but a lot of clubs and a lot of rides that you see are starting to age out because that fresh crop of guys that want to come in and learn are being so excluded and shunned away from some stuff, and people aren't open and willing to kind of take those people in and show them the ropes, so to speak, that a lot of times rides die, clubs die, and just in general everything dies, routes die, that type of thing. So I know we both feel strongly about that as trying to shepherd the young guys coming in to take that step to want to be the leader, want to be the trail guide, the leader, the gunners, and the positive aspects of these labels to carry the torch of the sport forward, because it is interesting. It's a lot like take my work, for example, where you have guys that have been there for 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50 years doing the one thing over and over again. And a lot of times the younger guys won't go to those people to try to learn and gravitate those experiences to them to make the entire sport or the hobby that much better and continue to make sure it's pushing progressively forward.
Well, that was the single biggest improvement, to my riding ability was riding with guys that were over my skill level, but not necessarily being expected to, constantly risk injury to keep up with them, so to speak. I got a lot of tips from, pretty much everybody when I first started riding with you guys, and things improve every time I get out and ride with you guys again. And, that seems like a sustainable way to keep things moving forward.
Yeah.
The younger guys in the group, the other, I would say, I think the youngest is AJ, right?
Yeah, probably him or Joey, I would say.
Yeah, Joey too. But it is kind of disheartening how few younger guys are in it. It seems like there's a lot of guys towards their 40s and older that are a part of it. And, hopefully as time goes on, we'll get more young guys in and, get them trained up, so to speak, and they'll become fanatics, and we'll just keep this train rolling.
Yeah, it's super awesome to see, the guy that maybe is just starting out and he's kind of on the fringe of wanting to take that step to be, a fanatic type of guy, and seeing that come to fruition. Like, just from me and my perspective, I've seen that with you and with AJ as just, thinking back to when you guys first started riding with us to where you're at now. It's like just a huge vertical improvement and climb. And we need some more young guys like that to come into the fold. And you have to be receptive to it. You have to be willing to be patient and show the ropes, show the skills that they lack, or, and then also on the same token, those people being receptive to taking that criticism or that advice, improving themselves.
Oh yeah, you got to have some level of humility to take the advice. It's like with anything else. You get the guy that thinks he knows everything there is to know about it, and in reality, you haven't even scratched the surface. I rode for probably close to 2 years before I actually started giving consideration more to body positioning and everything else. And I come to realize that I know less than I thought that I did. So it was kind of having to break old habits, learn new. And it's like just on Saturday, realizing that I'm really not that confident cornering on like tight turns on loose gravel.
Well, I don't think any of us
The answer to which is move your weight forward and steer with the rear, based on what Dan was up to. But it's all a learning experience, and it all comes back to just not getting frustrated. A lot of times, my mind, I'm like, man, I've rode for long enough. I should have a mastery of almost all this, and in reality, it's just a work in progress.
Yeah. Well, like we said, I think that's something to take away that hopefully the guys in the group that are watching can also do. Say you somebody out there that's younger that maybe wanting to get into this a little bit, take them under your wing and just show them, because you can't take that experience and your knowledge with you when you die. And that's not just for riding or dual sport, man. That's just everything in life. And growing up, a lot of times I feel like maybe I was one of the ones that took advantage and just, I didn't care what the older guys were telling me. I never took the advice. You got to learn the hard way and learn on your own. But man, recently I've been trying to be a sponge and just soak in all this experience and knowledge from the older folks that you can, because they're not going to be here forever. And a lot of their stuff, you can pass it on to the next generation, so to speak. And
I agree.
That's how any hobby progresses, in my opinion, is you learn from the older guys, the young guys step up, they become the old guys, and it's just a cycle that continues. So let's go through some of these comments, and while that's going on, I'll go ahead and put up our little industry news ticker. So if you guys see anything down on the bottom there that you want to talk about, we can definitely do that tonight. Go through some of these comments here. Let's see here. Pull up here so I can see who's who. So first comment was our good buddy Tyler Vincent, who says that the dust of the Memorial Day ride was significantly worse. And I will 1000% agree with you. That was the absolute dustiest ride I've ever been on in my life. I know my air filter was caked after that.
Sat that one out. I don't remember what I was up to. I think we might have went camping, but I remember set that one out.
Well, it had been dry for like 2 or 3 weeks leading up to it, man. And then everybody and their brother was out on side-by-sides and vehicles and Jeeps in the same areas we were going, just stirring it all up, man. It was like downright dangerous at some points. I know Justin was in front of me on his 690, which had the, I think he's got like one of the sick-ass racing tail tidies, which is one of the brightest like LED tail light setups you can have. I was right on him and couldn't see it, man. It's just absolute just darkness around you. It was horrible. And it was dusty at our ride here this past weekend, but it wasn't quite as bad as it was on Memorial Day. Fred says he loves to get dusty and dirty, laugh out loud. And that's why we love you, Fred. That's why you're always willing to be the tail gunner.
Yep. You the man.
I try to rotate him in and out too, saying, hey, man, go ahead. You lead. Because it's really funny when you see those guys that are at the back of the pack during a dusty ride when you come to stop, because they're just completely sooted up like they've been a chimney worker for the last 50 years. Let's see. Bill Parsons says, what would be a reliable bike for a guy to start out on?
Depends on what you want to do.
Yeah, that's a loaded question. But like I'd say for you, Bill, since you're a little bit of a bigger guy, I would say something maybe like a DRZ 400 would probably be a great bike for you. Yep. Super reliable, lots of aftermarket support out of there. It's been the same bike for like the last 30 years. So a brand new one is the same as one that was come out in like 2002 or so. I think a DRZ would be a good bike for you, Bill. Let's go on down here. Our old buddy Rob says they had a danger Dave over this weekend. Crashed his ATC 200 and tore his right shin up, and then crashed my van and tore his left shin up. Yeah, those guys are definitely out there, and they always seem to be like the crash test dummy guys. They're out there just glutton for punishment and bruised all up, and they're just accident prone to start with. Zach Fleming says gummy bears. I don't know if that's referencing a snack or something that we had there earlier.
That might have been we were talking about like quick quick glucose or whatever getting in your system.
Nick Hall's good for bubble gum and candy and stuff and snacks. He always seems to have a fanny pack full of those. Let's see. Kenny Vincent's telling Bill Parsons, because we all work together, that he needs a PW50. That would be a sight to behold to see Bill Parsons on a PW50. John Trotto says, I can say with 100% confidence that the biggest improvements I've made in my ridings have been on these group rides. And I can attest to that, John. John throws a XT250 Yamaha through the same gnarly stuff that we did, and really didn't have to wait on him any. I know Union Springs was one pretty gnarly trail there right after Reddish Knob that we did. And
that was all the rock climbs and shell.
Yeah, that was, I love that type of stuff. But man, that's asking a lot of different people in your group. But John's always there. I can definitely see the rise in John's skill level. Plus, the dude makes some badass videos, man. I know that.
I really like his video edits.
Dude, if you guys haven't checked out any of his stuff, John, I think it's John Trotto Creations on YouTube.
Yeah,
he's got all kinds of different videos out there, from Jeep stuff to our rides to anything you think of, and the production quality is amazing. Love John's stuff, and I know he's diligently working on some Brandywine footage that we had for over the weekend. Can't wait to see that. Let's see. Our old buddy Irish Gypsy George says he's super late. Well, the good thing is, buddy, that now that it's streaming on YouTube and other platforms, you can go back and watch from the beginning now. Shout out to our amazing sponsor. Let's see here. Tyler Vincent says, gravel is one of my biggest kryptonites. I lack so much confidence in corners. A lot learning from the ride from you guys. In that type of gravel, which what we ran into was a lot of nice roads that were absolutely ruined because they were redoing all the power lines and stuff there, especially on the Virginia side of the state line. You just have to be loose. You can't be too tight, and you have to know, and it just comes from experience, of how far can I lay over at what speeds before this thing starts to wash out.
Yep.
And that's just it's a feel thing. And I found that the looser you are, and sometimes the more momentum that you carry, you'll tend to keep a little bit more grip through all that loose gravel.
See, that's my biggest issue. It's counterintuitive. Is I know in my mind that I need to carry more speed through this to keep grip, and then the primal thing or whatever overrides. It's like, no, you need to slow down. Like, this is way too fast to be slinging into this turn.
Yep.
So it's a balance to strike.
It definitely is. And, gravel to me is a little bit of a mix of obviously rocks and mud, I think.
Yeah.
Because gravel can get to the point where it's so deep that it's like a wave almost. And if you're carrying your speed and your momentum, you're going to stay on top of that. The slower you go, the more you're going to sink down into it.
Yep.
And then the same token as far as like rock gardens. Well, when you come to a rock garden, if you're going super slow through it, you're going to feel more of the bumps, and it's going to beat you to death. If you can carry that speed up, your body and your bike doesn't have the time to take that entire impact slowly. Yep. It's skipping over top of a lot of
you're just skipping from top to top. That was probably one of the biggest improvements that I made in my riding. Was, remember years ago, Fred telling me, you need to go faster. I'm like, you're crazy. I can barely do what I'm doing now. But now, like going up Oil Well or through Hard Rock or 13 Creeks or whatever, I carry a lot more speed. And honestly, it feels a lot more confident because, like you said, your body doesn't have time to take each individual hit. Stuff that would otherwise deflect your front end, you're just skating right over.
Yep. John also says, loose gravel turns is the main thing I need to get better at. Yeah, it just comes with practice and just hitting it, man. Let's see. Michael Barkus says, what's up, guys? What's up with you, man?
Just the same old Tuesday night drink.
John says, Tyler might have one for sale. I may have, I know he was on the fence about the Kool-Aid, and I may have taken him by the back and threw him in the pool of Kool-Aid because I let him ride my bike up to the top of the mountain there on Forest Road 85. And I think if he would have had cell service, the DRZ may have been on Marketplace at the top of the mountain there. Sorry, Tyler. My bad.
The Kool-Aid does taste too good.
And he says, yep, definitely have a nice DRZ 400 for sale for those looking. Nick Hall says, gravel sucks, just like Clibbins.
Just like Clibbins.
God, we were on that kick all weekend, weren't we?
Oh, I'm on that kick all the time. Any amount of loose terrain is immediately getting that joke.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, we legit had some Clibbins down there.
Yeah.
When we left that gas station in Lilly, Virginia, I mean, that is such an interesting area. It's a melting pot of people that are kind of wanting to get out of the hustle and bustle of DC, and then you have a large Mennonite population right there in that same area. And we pulled out on the road behind this. I don't even know what kind of tractor it was. It looked like a New Holland. It must have been the biggest one that they made.
I don't understand how you can get 54 by 24 inch tires up to 40 some miles an hour without them being so unbalanced that they like hop off the road.
So I don't know if that trailer had soybeans or what the heck. It was just absolutely crammed and just hooved up
all over the place.
Yeah. And I'm behind this dude, and that entire top layer that's above the trailer is just blowing off all over me, all over the road and everything. And yeah, like you were saying, I look down my speedo, I'm doing 52, and the dude is pulling from me. He's pulling away from me on giant knobby balloon tires on this trailer that look like they're about to explode at any minute. But yeah, there's clippings all over the road. I had to lay her down.
God bless Hoss.
God bless you, Hoss. Then not far up there was a guy mowing his grass, blowing his yard clippings right in the road.
Oh, James, I think you froze up. I got time.
Bill? All right, we're back, I think.
Yeah, you froze up, buddy.
There we are. I don't know, I lost service there for a second.
Those Clibbins got you.
The Clibbins got the internet connection.
And again.
You there?
Are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening. Hopefully the wife paid the internet bill.
I know.
But yeah, it had to mess with that guy super quick.
Oh man. I don't know if he's coming back from this one. Oh, he's completely disconnected now. Well, I shot him a text. We'll see if he can hop back on here, what the deal is. We'll just consider this an intermission because I can't carry this show all by myself.
I'm back.
Oh, cool. I was just saying we'll consider this an intermission because I can't carry this show all by myself.
Oh, you do fine. I'm not sure what happened there. I reset my router, so hopefully we're good to go now.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, so like I was saying, the guy's looking at me. He's riding his mower.
Oh boy. So what happened was there was a guy that was blowing grass clippings with a lawnmower up onto the pavement as we were riding by. James decided to mess with him and act like, he was losing control because of the grass clippings, and he was really hamming it up. He was shaking the handlebars, had his feet off the pegs, just really wallowing out through there. And James said he looked back and the guy's eyes were big as dinner plates when he looked up at him because he thought that he'd actually about made somebody wreck. So hopefully in the future he'll quit, blowing that stuff up into the road.
Yeah, it's all over the place. So I'm not sure what's going on. The internet keeps going in and out, so we're going to sign it off here, guys, and we'll catch up on another episode about the last guy I want to talk about, which is a Chad. Every group needs to have a Chad.
I agree. For better.
Chad, yeah, for better or worse, Chad is the prankster of the group, the one that fits every single one of these labels all together at the same time. He's high, he's low, he's in between. He might try to get in your bed with you in the middle of the night, but everybody needs a Chad.
There's no try. That that dude's big enough. You're not telling him no.
No means no.
Not to Chad, buddy.
I was excited that my Liat backpack thing had the emergency whistle on it because you could be around Chad. You need that emergency whistle.
You never know what's gonna happen.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Sorry about all the technical issues. I'll try to get that wrapped up for next week's episode. And as always, we appreciate you all tuning in. And Trevor, thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Yep. Thanks, you too. We'll see you guys.
See you guys next episode.